Your attention, please. Tonight, we are making him the youngest managing director in the history of our little company. Well done, kiddo. You earned it.
I couldn't have done any of this without my beautiful bride, Hunter.
I feel so lucky.
Mom, we're pregnant.
You would look so pretty with long hair. Richie likes his girls with long, beautiful hair.
What are you so happy about?
I did something unexpected today.
Why? Why? Why would you do something like this? I mean, what the fuck is wrong with you?
This is the kind of thing that you're supposed to tell somebody about before you get married. You should have told me about this.
I can't help it.
I think it might be better if I met with Hunter alone.
Oh, no.
How does it make you feel?
I don't know. It made me feel in control.
Hoi! Zo, dat duurde even. We hadden een technisch mankementje, maar we hopen dat jullie er nog steeds zijn. Ik denk dat ons systeem ook een klein beetje oververhit was. Het is een prachtige dag, daarom zit ik buiten. Het is jullie vergeven als jullie ook buiten zitten, maar dan hoop ik dat jullie wel je telefoon of je laptop in de tuin, in het park bij je hebben voor deze viewing party, de Vitamine Cineville Viewing Party van Swallow. Première met een Q&A met regisseur Carlo Mirabella-Davis vanuit New York, zo direct. Dit is al de 5e viewing party die we doen. En misschien wel een van de laatste, want we hebben goed nieuws gekregen. Vanaf 1 juni mogen we allemaal weer naar de theaters. Weliswaar wel met 30 mensen per zaal. Maar ik kan in ieder geval echt niet wachten om weer op het grote scherm mooie films te kijken. En omdat het première is en omdat we 1 juni weer naar de theaters mogen, heb ik een drankje meegenomen. Ik hoop jullie ook. Ik ga even proosten. Zo. Ik ben Lauren van Cineville trouwens. Ik weet niet of ik dat had gezegd net. Dit is wel echt mijn eerste drankje. Proost. Op de theater. Vanavond kijken we dus wel nog gewoon binnen. Op Vitamine Cineville. Vitamine Cineville blijft ook online. In ieder geval in juni. Misschien nog wat langer. Zolang de situatie nog niet helemaal normaal is. Wat is normaal tegenwoordig? Maar vanaf 1 juni worden wel alle passen weer geactiveerd. En kunnen jullie, de cinevielers onder jullie, unlimited weer naar de film. Nu eerst Swallow. Swallow is een hele bijzondere film waarvan we heel blij zijn dat we hem op Vitamine Cineville kunnen premiëren. Het is een debuut. En ik heb hem gezien op het filmfestival van Sitges vorig jaar. En ik verwachtte eigenlijk iets totaal anders. Want de logline of de premisse is, het gaat over een vrouw die niet kan stoppen met gekke dingen door te slikken. En dan verwacht je een soort van hele gore body horror. Dat is het niet. Wat het wel is, gaan jullie zo direct zien. Jullie kunnen hem kijken op Vitamine Cineville. Als je een account hebt, dan log je in. Dan staat hij bovenaan bij de films. Maar je kunt hem ook kijken op een aantal andere VOD-platforms. Zoals Cinemember, Pathé Thuis, Ziggo, iTunes en nog een paar meer. Dus we kunnen met een grote groep mensen kijken zo direct. Hou je notitieblokje erbij. Want daarna schuift dus de regisseur aan voor een Q&A. We presenteren deze avond samen met Première, de distributeur, en Imagine Film Festival. Het grootste genrefilmfestival van Nederland, waar de film eigenlijk zou draaien in april. Het festival kon helaas niet doorgaan. Ik doe zo direct een kort gesprekje met Chris Oosterom, de directeur van Imagine. Maar ik ga eerst even wat saaie technische dingen vertellen. Ik heb net al verteld waar je de film kunt zien. Dat gaan we zo direct starten. Dus niet hier, maar in die andere omgeving. Daarna komen we met z'n allen weer hier terug. En dan kun je vragen stellen aan de regisseur via de comments onder de streams op YouTube of Facebook. Of je kunt live inbellen via Skype. Dan komt je gezicht in zo'n televisietje te staan, net als die van mij. En dat kan door ons toe te voegen op Skype. We heten Cineville Skype. Of even te klikken op de URL die in de omschrijving van de stream staat. We hebben niet eindeloos veel tijd daarna. Hoewel de regisseur heeft gezegd dat hij de hele avond heeft. Maar nou, we gaan kijken. Misschien wordt het wel de hele avond. Het blijft lang licht. Dus stel je vragen scherp. Want er is een kans dat we ze anders niet allemaal kunnen stellen. Oké, ik ga nu door naar de introductie met Chris van Imagine. Chris, ben je daar?
Ja hoor, ik ben er.
Hi. Hallo. Zit je ook buiten?
Nee, ik zit binnen. Ik had te horen gekregen dat ik niet te veel omgevingsgeluid mocht genereren. Dus ik doe het gewoon in mijn eigen werkhoekje.
Oh ja, heb je wel ook iets om mee te proosten?
Ik heb een lekker kopje thee.
Ook prima. Ja, er vliegen hier af en toe vliegtuigen over. Wat ik echt wonderbaarlijk vind, dat die dus blijkbaar toch nog vliegen. Maar ik hoop dat jullie daar geen last van hebben.
Ik was vandaag in het Amsterdamse bos en daar hoorde ik veel meer vliegtuigen dan ik de afgelopen weken heb gehoord. Dus ook met alle mensen en theaters en weet ik veel die weer op gang komen, schijnt het vliegverkeer ook weer langzaam irritant te worden.
Dat komt misschien wel door de relatieve stilte dan.
Misschien.
Hoe gaat het met jou en hoe gaat het met het festival?
Nou, met mij gaat het. Ik heb eigenlijk veel te rustige maanden achter de rug, omdat we begin maart zeker wisten dat Imagine in april niet door zou kunnen gaan. En toen is er eigenlijk heel erg lang zoveel onduidelijkheid geweest over wat er met de filmtheaters zou gebeuren, wat er met de bioscopen zou gebeuren, dat we heel erg lang een beetje in de lucht hebben gehangen of we überhaupt nog wel een Imagine konden doen later dit jaar of niet. Nou, zoals je net al bij de inleiding zei, de filmtheaters gaan 1 juni weer open. We zijn nu heel concreet aan het praten over een periode in het najaar. Daar kan ik nu nog niet echt een aankondiging van doen, maar ik denk dat we wel heel snel, dat zal zijn waarschijnlijk binnen 2-3 weken, dat we met een concrete aankondiging gaan komen. Want er gaat een Imagine komen in 2020. En daardoor gaat het nu met mij ook weer heel erg goed. En met mij ook, want dat doen we samen. Ja, zeker. Ja, maar full disclosure, Lauren is ook bij Imagine.
Ik ben heel benieuwd naar welke, los van de films die we op Imagine willen gaan vertonen, zonder Swallow dan helaas. Maar naar welke films jij uitkijkt in de bioscopen de komende maand? Welke heb je al gereserveerd?
Ik heb gereserveerd voor Booksmart in Lab 111. Want die waren de eerste die hun programma helemaal online hadden staan. En ik dacht, ik wil gewoon naar de allereerste voorstelling op de allereerste dag. En dan wil ik een film zien die ik nog niet gezien heb. En Booksmart, dacht pang, meteen 11 uur 's ochtends.
Jij bent me nog voor. Ik heb namelijk gereserveerd voor 1:30 's middags.
Ja.
Voor Good Time, ook in Lab. Ja. Ik dacht dat ik de eerste was.
Ja, nee, ik heb Good Time al gezien. En ik zou het helemaal geen straf vinden om nog een keer te zien. Hoor. Maar ik dacht, Booksmart, die heb ik nog niet gezien. Dus die gaat dan even voor.
Leuk. En kan je even iets vertellen over Swallow en waarom die wat jou betreft toen in het programma moest worden opgenomen?
Nou, het is wat je een beetje in de introductie zegt. Als je leest waar de film over gaat, wat ik trouwens niet had gedaan vooraf, maar als je leest waar de film over gaat, dan denk je inderdaad aan inderdaad een soort gory body horror. Maar het is juist wat mij betreft de onderkoelde en beheerste manier waarop de regisseur zijn film opbouwt, waardoor het gegeven zoveel impact heeft. En het is, de Haley Bennett die de hoofdrol speelt, is echt fenomenaal in haar rol als huisvrouw in een schitterende gouden kooi. Wat ik heel mooi vind aan de film is dat het iemand laat zien die eigenlijk diep ongelukkig is, maar die ook eigenlijk niet haar situatie wil veranderen. Mm-hmm. En dat is een situatie waarin we allemaal wel eens zijn. Dat we eigenlijk heel erg ongelukkig zijn, maar we toch denken, ja, maar ik ga toch het niet afbreken. En daarnaast is het gewoon de regie en het verstikkende milieu van haar man en vooral haar schoonouders, die het echt wel gewoon een nagel bijten. Hij heeft van start tot finish een heel beheerste film, waardoor wat mij betreft de emoties nog veel sterker overkomen. Ja.
Nou, daar kan ik me eigenlijk alleen maar bij aansluiten. En heb jij een specifieke vraag voor Carlo, waar je naar de film mee zat?
Ja, maar eigenlijk alle vragen die ik hem zou willen stellen, daar zitten spoilers in. Dus ik zou hem eigenlijk gewoon een hele flauwe vraag willen stellen wat hij gegeten heeft vandaag.
Je mag ook wel, die schrijf ik sowieso op, maar je mag ook wel je vragen straks in de comments zetten met spoilers
dat zal ik doen.
gekeken is.
Ja, dat zal ik doen. Ja.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick, just because I realized I just forgot to do a quick introduction in English for the technical part. Anybody who's watching who doesn't speak Dutch, we're going to watch the film Swallow on Vitamine Cineville in a bit. You can also watch it on some of the other VOD platforms that it's been released on today. And then afterwards at 10, I hope it's 10 because we're running a little bit late. Might be a bit later than 10. We're going to start the Q&A with Carlo Mirabella-Davis, who'll be phoning in from New York. And you can ask him anything you like through the comments section, and then I will just pass your question on to him. But if you'd like to call in live on one of these tiny screens, you can do so by adding Cineville Skype to your Skype account, and we'll tell you what to do. So, well, I think we should start the movie, right?
Right.
Grab your drink, grab any strange object you might feel like swallowing during the film. I don't have one present. And let's go. Hoi, fijn dat jullie er nog of weer zijn. Ik ben Lauren van Cineville en welkom bij de Vitamine Cineville Première Viewing Party van Swallow. Ik hoop dat jullie die net allemaal hebben gekeken en nu misschien een beetje de weg kwijt zijn. Of misschien even moeten reflecteren, maar daar hebben we geen tijd voor, want we beginnen direct met de Q&A. Nogmaals, als je vragen wil stellen, dan kan dat gewoon onder de comments onder de YouTube stream of onder de Facebook stream en dan zet ik ze door. Maar je kunt ook zelf inbellen met Carlo Mirabella-Davis als je wil. Dan komt je het hoofd in zo'n televisieschermpje en dan kan je zelf de vraag stellen die je wil stellen. Dat doe je door Cineville Skype toe te voegen aan Skype of te klikken op de URL in de beschrijving onder de streams en dan word je doorverwezen. En dan kom je in de wachtrij en daarna ben je aan de beurt. So in English, I hope you enjoyed the film. I hope you're feeling all kinds of feelings. And we're doing a Q&A with the director, Carlo Mirabella-Davis, in a second. If you want to ask questions, you can do so by commenting under the live streams on Facebook or YouTube. Or you can call in live through Skype. If you add us, we're Cineville Skype, and we'll explain what to do. Well, maybe we should just get right to it. Carlo, are you in the house?
I am. Thank you so much for bringing our film to Holland and for having this discussion with me. I'm so thrilled to be here. And thank you everyone who watched the movie and is participating.
How many of these done by now?
Well, we've been to quite a number of festivals all over the world, so it's been a few, but now we're adapting to having these Q&As online. So this is the first one where I have an incredible television set that I'm hearing on. So I'm excited about that.
I just realized that yours could easily fit into the decor of the film. Right?
Yeah, there is. Mine has a very kind of a retro 1950s feel to it.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to that later. I bet in the Q&A. I really enjoyed the film. I think it's very special. It sort of grew on me, I think, after seeing it in stitches and it not being what I'd expected at all. Like I like to go into a film not knowing as little as possible. And I thought I'm in for a weird sort of fetishistic gore fest. And it turned out to be something entirely different, which I really loved. And the second time I saw it, I just noticed so much more layers and nuance and that great central performance. And it just feels like such a labor of love to me with the whole crew.
Yes, it absolutely was. It was a real sort of family of artists who poured their hearts and souls into the project. And as you say, I'm so over the moon about Haley Bennett's tour de force performance in the film. She was also an executive producer on the movie and just brought Hunter to life with so much power and clarity and insight. And it was a real miracle that she decided to tell this story with us.
Mm-hmm. And strangely enough, it's maybe also the perfect film for a lockdown in a sense. Like the second time I saw it was at home, and I was like, it kind of added to the sort of locked in experience. I don't know if that was a good thing necessarily, but it did add to the viewing experience for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. The film, seems to be striking a chord with everybody during this trying time we're all living through. I think in the Rolling Stone review, they called our movie the perfect film for our helpless moment. So I'm pleased that the film's resonating in that way.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fans. I mean, I saw that Kevin Smith likes the film, and director Sean Baker and Olivia Wilde. Like, you've got quite some fans around.
Yeah, I was so moved that they decided to support the film and talk about it. It's been incredible to see other creators and film appreciators bring the film into their personal and internal cosmology. There's also been a lot of wonderful fan art that people have been putting up on Twitter. And it's been thrilling to see that. Yeah.
So I think, to be honest, I think there's already a lot of fans now after seeing the film in the Netherlands, and we already have someone who's ready to call in through Skype. But first, I wanted to ask you one question that Chris, the director of Imagine Film Festival that the film would have screened at in April, asked when we were doing the introduction. He said, "I have so many questions, but most of them are spoilers, so he didn't want to ask them live then." But so the one question, he said it's silly, but the one question he wanted to ask you was what did you eat today?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? There was a little bit of interference.
Yeah, his question was, what did you eat today?
Oh, cereal. I think I had some cereal. And interesting question. But we did try, to make all the food in the film. We filmed it in such a way that it felt like it had a life force to it, or that there was some kind of consciousness to the food, and indeed all the objects in the film we tried to give a kind of consciousness to in how we filmed it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she has that collection going on. Also, like every object seems to have a specific meaning to her, to Hunter.
Yeah, I really wanted every single object to represent a kind of emotional memory in a way for Hunter. And if you listen in the sound design, you can hear when she holds up the marble, the distant noises of the beach scene and seagulls wheeling overhead and someone laughing. And it's supposed to have kind of a nostalgic energy that she's recalling some past memory of happiness gone. Whereas the thumbtack is much more like a siren calling to her, more like a dangerous liaison. So, and each of the moments with the objects are preceded by some kind of triggering event or moment that causes that happens before the compulsion.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to sell the objects? I was just personally wondering, that A24 has now started to sell all these movie memorabilia or things from the sets. Like, who's going to get the marble?
It's a really interesting question. We haven't really considered that, but it's an interesting idea. Well, I guess
there might be a market for it.
Yeah, we'll see.
So we have someone waiting in Skype. Her name is Marjolein Keizer. Marjolein, are you around?
Hi, how are you?
I think you're still on mute.
Hi, yeah, I was muting myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Hi, Carlo. Thank you for the movie. I really enjoyed it. And it was a premiere online with all these other people enjoying it. So I love that you did a movie about pica. And I was wondering, what is the strangest thing you've ever eaten yourself?
Oh, interesting question. Well, you know, what's interesting, this isn't that strange, but what's interesting is that technically ice eating is considered pica. And I do eat a lot of ice. And it's something we all do. But, you know, not a lot of people know that it is technically considered pica. So when we did the ice eating sequence, I was drawing from personal experience there. And my amazing cinematographer, Kate Arizmendi, did such an incredible job of making that ice feel like it was some mystical kingdom that Hunter wanted to escape into with those master prime lenses and that beautiful lighting. So I'm going to go with ice, even though it's pretty common.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the question and watching the movie.
What about you, Marjolein? Are you still here?
Yes.
She's gone. Yes. What's the weirdest thing you ever ate?
Okay, I was a child, but I scooped something out of my diaper.
Oh. Yeah, kids do tend to do that.
Yeah.
and dogs. Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, that brings me to the next question. Marjolein already mentioned pica, and or would you say pica?
Pica.
Pica. I think it's something that not a lot of people are aware of or know the existence of. And there's someone asking on YouTube, Thomas is asking what the direct inspiration for the film was, and I think it's tied into that subject matter. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Absolutely. So the film was inspired by my grandmother, who was a homemaker in the 1950s in an unhappy marriage, who developed various rituals of control. She was an obsessive hand washer who would go through 4 bars of soap a day and 12 bottles of rubbing alcohol a week. And I think she was looking for order in a life she felt increasingly powerless in. And my grandfather, at the behest, put her into a mental institution where she was given electroshock therapy, insulin shock therapy, and a non-consensual lobotomy, where she lost her sense of taste and smell. And I always felt that there was something punitive about it, that she was being punished in a way for not living up to society's expectations of what they felt a wife or a mother should be, and for being different. And I always wanted to make a film about that. But, you know, hand washing is not very cinematic, or maybe it's becoming more cinematic now that we're all doing it, you know. But I remember seeing a photograph online of all the contents of someone's stomach that had been surgically removed. Who had
I saw that picture.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's this, all the artifacts are fanned out, you know, on the table, kind of like an archaeological dig. And I was fascinated, and I wanted to know what drew the patient to those objects. It almost felt something mystical, like a Holy Communion, and I wanted to know more. So that's how it began.
Because I also read that this happens to, well, Marjolein already mentioned, children tend to put stuff in their mouth that's not edible. Some dogs do. And then also pregnant women, more so than some other people. What's the explanation for that?
Well, there's a lot of different theories about the causes of pica, and we try to work a lot of those theories into the movie. So some, you know, people believe that it has a connection to a nutritional deficiency, and we have an element in the film that plays around with that. You know, a lot of the consensus is that it's, you know, it's a compulsion. It's connected to the psychology of the person engaged in it. And I found in my research, you know, I reached out to the world's expert on pica, Dr. Rachel Bryant-Waugh, who was very gracious to come on board the film as a consultant. And I found there was a lot of similarities and parallels with other rituals of control, forms of control like OCD. And so I felt that even though the condition was fairly rare, I wanted to tell a story that would feel universal, so that people would watch the film and say, well, I might not eat a dangerous object, but I understand, the pain that she's feeling in that moment, or, the feeling that Hunter gets being in this oppressive situation, and I can bond with her. And
yeah, that ties into another question that just came in through YouTube from Sophie, asking why you chose to explain Hunter's behavior with the backstory, her backstory and her trauma. Is that because it's tied into that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I wanted there to be multiple explanations and interpretations that lean while watching the film. You could see the compulsion as a kind of quiet rebellion against the patriarchal, and when she realizes that the family is essentially using her as a kind of vessel for their legacy, and sees her as an augmentation to the husband's life, and that she rebels from that. You could see it as a way of her reclaiming, body autonomy after she realizes that they're kind of, using her. And you could also see it as relating to this trauma from her past, which I don't want to talk too much about because people may be watching them. But I wanted to delve into that as well and peel back the layers of the onion, so to speak, because ultimately I wanted the film to be a cathartic experience, one that felt connected to people's experiences, that really struck at the core of the cycles, that and the effects trauma can have, and how people process situations where they feel out of control. So I wanted to include all of those interpretations.
Yeah. There's Alice is asking also on YouTube. She says this, as someone with anorexia, I could relate a lot, especially at the family scenes. I was wondering what the reaction was with people who have pica.
So I'm very pleased to hear that. We really worked hard to try to make the film feel authentic. We actually have gotten people that have reached out who have pica, and even some journalists have written articles about their experiences watching the film and having pica themselves, and they felt that the film, I think, was truthful and spoke to resonate. I'm very pleased about that, and I hope, like I said, the film feels like a lot of different people from different experiences can connect to it and feel like and feel seen.
Yeah. Like for me, I think it's interesting. You just mentioned how apart from her backstory or the personal side to the character, you also wanted to show the way women's bodies can be taken by somebody else or abused. It's sort of in a subtle way in this film. And to me, expecting that I'd go into a full-blown horror film and finding out that to me was the biggest horror, is the way she's treated. That was absolutely horrifying. Just the way that whole family just takes everything, just leaves her no choice, essentially, but pretends that they do. That's really wonderful to hear. That's exactly what we were going for. I'm really interested in the horror genre and the possibilities that it has to identify, many different types of horror, including the horror of everyday life. And I wanted the sort of monstrousness in the film to be, the way the family marginalizes her and controls her, and and then so that when she, even though the compulsion is very dangerous, that it also serves as a sort of catalyst that allows her to rebel from that controlling patriarchal paradigm. Yeah. Is in what part was Haley Bennett part of creating that character? Well, I knew from the beginning, we all knew that we needed an incredible actor who was able to bring the audience into Hunter's internal cosmology. And
we were so lucky that Haley Bennett decided to bring the character to life. And, Haley is so good with layers of emotion, and Hunter wears multiple masks throughout the film. There's that first mask that's like the placid smile reflecting what her husband wants her to be. There's that second mask that's like her pain, her doubt. Is this where I belong? Is this what, do I want to be here? And then there's the third mask, her true self, her primal self emerging. And Haley can give you all of those emotional textures with just the touch of her hair or the twitch of her eye. And like I said, I think she really delivers a tour de force performance in the film. And there were so many amazing innovations that she brought, one of which was that when we arrived on set and Haley said, I'm going to do a voice, because that's not her real voice, Hunter's voice. And I was like,
wow, yeah.
I was like, great, let's hear it. And she did the voice, and I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. And it was a really brilliant concept on Haley's part, because it allowed us to kind of show another shift in the psychological movement of the film, because it allowed Haley to slightly calibrate the change in the tenor of her voice as the film progresses. So it was another storytelling tool at our disposal.
Where it goes from more soft spoken and a little bit more high pitched and demure in the beginning, and then going towards something else in the end. I don't know if I could copy it in any way, but I think I know what you mean. There's lots of people raving in the comments about
wonderful.
Haley's performance. There's also Thomas and Kirsty asking a similar kind of question. What objects did Haley Bennett actually have to put into her mouth for the film? Like, how did she research this part? How far did she take it?
Well, Haley's process is really inspiring and incredible, and she does a great deal of research and journaling and preparation. And like I said, because she was an executive producer on the film, and because she believed so deeply in it, she was very generous with her time. And so we had a lot of time to meet and discuss and hone the character before we ever got on set. So that was, I was really, happy that we had that time. As far as how the illusions are done, and they are illusions, with the pica, I don't want to reveal them, because I like the mystery surrounding the illusion itself. It's like a magician never reveals their tricks. I if it feels authentic, then I'd rather it remains that way in the film.
Yeah, it sure does. I have someone waiting on Skype. Jill, I think you joined us for a second earlier already. Hi.
Hi.
I can see two people.
Hi. Yeah. Hi. We're all watching. Can you hear us? Hi.
Oh, hi, everybody.
Hi. Hi.
We're halfway through the film now.
Yeah, we're watching it. We're halfway through.
Watching.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it.
We're getting live comments.
And Jill had a very interesting question that we were all also wondering. So
yes.
Could you maybe ask a question? We were wondering, what could we swallow to take down the patriarchy?
Sorry, say that again?
We were wondering, what could we swallow to take down the patriarchy as a rebellious act?
Oh, I see. Well, I would say, the film, it's an interesting question, because I wanted the title to be a literal, it's obviously referencing the pica, but it's also metaphorical and referencing the idea that a lot of what happens as we know, in the patriarchal kind of situation is that, women are asked to sort of like repress their feelings and misgivings about what's going on. And that happens a lot with Hunter, especially in that scene where, at the dinner where she's asked to tell the story, and then her father-in-law sort of cuts her off. That's a moment, where you see the impact of what that means symbolically, how it marginalizes her. But of course, she's expected to just swallow that emotion and pretend that everything is fine and defer to her husband. But of course, it comes out, the rebellion comes out in the form of the pica. But I think we're in an interesting time right now where there's so many incredible new voices making movies that are fighting against this, kind of oppressive worldview. And I would say make art. That's the thing to do to fight the patriarchy. Let's all tell your stories and make art.
Yes. Super nice answer. Thank you.
And Jill had a really funny question actually that she was too afraid to ask, but I thought I would just ask it. Jill had the question: if you swallow yourself, do you become twice as big or do you disappear? That was her question.
I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that question medically.
Almost philosophical, right?
Maybe it happens.
But I like the imaginativeness of the question, and I think there's a whole other short film with that one. I think.
Okay,
Just
we're looking forward to it.
Where the film could go.
Yeah, we're not sure. Maybe it will happen. I don't know. We're on
right. Keep watching. Keep watching.
We will. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
What would you swallow tonight then?
That's nice. They might come back later when they've seen the whole film.
Right.
Who knows? So there's a few questions coming in about people being reminded of certain things, watching the film, and then wondering what your inspirations were. So there's Ilse saying, amazing debut. You already mentioned it suits our current moment in so many ways. It reminded her of other amazing films she's been thinking a lot about this quarantine, like Jean Dielman by Chantal Akerman and Todd Haynes' Safe. And then there's Roy also mentioning Safe. Of course, there's lots it reminded me of some Cronenberg stuff, some Hitchcock, some all great things to remind one of. Were there any maybe subconscious or conscious influences that you had when making this film?
Yes, well, I'm so thrilled that your audience has identified two of our very important influences, Jean Dielman and La Captive. Both of those films, I'm a huge Chantal Akerman fan, and Chantal Akerman's characters and storytelling and meticulous control over the frame. What we see, what we don't see, and was really a huge influence on us. And of course, Todd Haynes' brilliant film Safe was also another really important influence on the film, as well as A Woman Under the Influence by Cassavetes. And in terms of the colors, the original Suspiria by Argento. Obviously, there's a bit of Hitchcock and Douglas Sirk and De Palma in there as well. And all of these films were really important to us while looking at for our inspirations. And my amazing cinematographer, Kate Arizmendi, and I created also of films we were inspired by, but then together we constructed this whole kind of complicated film vernacular for the movie. Kate and I created this kind of strict set of rules for the camera direction that Kate would then break at key emotional junctures or hinge moments in the film. So if you notice in the beginning, Kate has a lot of lockdown master shots, very formalistic camera direction where Hunter is kind of lost in the frame or sort of dominated by the space. And then Kate will suddenly use shallow depth of field close-up or handheld, to show things fracturing and power dynamics shifting and mark Hunter's journey. And indeed, the whole film also with the style, our amazing production designer, Erin McGill, and Leanna Dubroja, our wonderful costume designer, the film starts out more stylized and then becomes more realistic in the production design, camera direction, and costume as the story progresses to kind of reflect Hunter's journey.
Yeah. The art direction and the also the location just looks amazing. I mean, you mentioned Douglas Sirk already. That was very obvious to me that it feels at the same time classical and of now, which is a a fine balance to strike. And there's some people asking about it too. There's Yet asking, she loved the fact that Hunter seems invisible to those around her, although there's a lot of glass and openness in the film setting. And Pascal is also saying the location looks really amazing. And they're both curious about whether that type of location was always a big part of the story and how you found it. Like, did you have it in mind beforehand? Because it's an existing location, right?
Yes, the building exists and was designed by the owner. Everything in the inside is designed by Aaron McGill. So yeah, we spent a lot of time scouting locations. In the script, I always knew I wanted the film to take place in an ultra-modern space with a lot of glass because I wanted the house to feel like a display case, in a natural history museum, and have these invisible walls, which kind of represent the invisible parameters of the world that she's in. But when we found that particular house, I remember walking in, looking around and thinking, my God, it's a Hitchcock film, like it's North by Northwest. And there are actually, I don't know if people notice, there's this sculpture outside the house that actually looks like a marble. So I felt like it was kind of destiny. But then in the conversations with our incredible production designer, Aaron, we talked a lot about the idea that every object and the decor of the house was a great storytelling opportunity because Hunter is actively decorating the home to, reflect what she believes the wealthy family wants. But then every once in a while, Aaron will put in a touch that will show Hunter's true self emerging stylistically, like when the red gel is put over the baby's room window, where we get to see her true kind of feelings coming out. And that was also our little Suspiria reference. And Aaron came up with this amazing idea that every piece of furniture in the home and every larger object and ornament should look like an object Hunter might want to consume if it was smaller. So notice the coffee table next time and other pieces of furniture if you rewatch the film.
Yeah, it's meticulously crafted. And also the way the costumes are amazing as well. Yeah. The way she looks, because it instantly revokes that sort of 50s housewife idea that doesn't match what you would think a modern woman of today maybe would want to look like. I think that I was really impressed by the way it looks. I was also very impressed by the sound and by the score. I mean, Nathan Halpern's score, but also the songs. I think there was some Frazee Ford in there, if I'm not mistaken.
There was.
Yeah. Such a fave. Yes. There's someone, Esther is asking on YouTube, about more the sound design. So she says it's interesting how the sound works in the movie because it seems to make objects more tactile. Maybe you can expand on that.
Yes. Well, I'm so pleased you felt that way about the sound, and I agree that Nathan Halpern's score is just incredibly beautiful and haunting and amazingly crafted. So in terms of the sound design, Michael Kirihara, our sound editor, and I worked very closely to try to make everything feel alive, to give the world a bit of a heightened reality. And we did that through using a lot of Foleys. So for your audience who don't know, Foleys are handcrafted sound effects that are made specifically for the film, as opposed to canned sound effects, which are pre-recorded in a big database. But because Michael was so focused on the idea of getting these Foleys, we made a great number of them, which then added in, really heightens every experience. There's a moment where salt is sprinkled on this lamb chop in the beginning. And, we have the sound of, you can't actually hear salt hitting something, but we made that sound so that you could hear every little grain of salt hitting the dish. So the idea was, through the sound design to create a heightened reality, but then also use the sound design to pull you into Hunter's perspective and experience. And throughout all the departments, that was our goal, to really put you in Hunter's shoes and make you see the world through her experience.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that you mentioned the scene with the lamb in the beginning, because it was one that I'd forgotten about after the first one, and then noticed again the second one, and had trouble placing. And Charlie is also asking on YouTube the same, like, could you explain the meaning? You've already said I don't want to expose my tricks as a musician, but maybe you could give us a bit of a tip.
I'll talk about the lambs. So this was a really interesting moment in the film, because in the screenplay, I wanted to put in a kind of Buñuelian opening, where you see some kind of allegory that reflects on the movie, and the idea was to show something sinister and potentially oppressive lurking beneath the seemingly pleasant atmosphere of the wealthy family's dinner. So everybody's eating what you see in the beginning, these lambs being slaughtered and the food being brought to the table, and everybody's eating it like this sort of violent act doesn't exist. So it's our first moment of gaslighting.
Yeah.
But when we got into the edit, what we realized, my amazing editor, Joe Murphy, who did such an incredible job, and I realized that when we started with just the lambs, it took too long to get to Hunter and to connect with her. So we took the lambs off, and we had this sequence of her putting her objects out and unpacking around the house. But then when we did that, we realized that there was no clue that the film was going to have horror elements and be an unusual story. So then Joe, and I came up with this idea of marrying the two together, which created this fascinating new kind of metaphor where Hunter and the lambs are sort of paralleled. They're both sort of being led to the slaughter in a way, just in the service of this controlling society. So that was sort of the story of how that came about.
So it kind of primes you to sort of.
Yeah.
We like to at Cineville, I think we often say like it puts a certain type of glasses on for you.
Oh, I love
the
that
story.
That's great.
So to be like, for me, the film is also such a character-driven film. Like you've already mentioned a few times, like everything is in service of also seeing things dies. But I was also really moved by some of the scenes, and also the Richie's, like her husband as a character is also so subtle. Like there were actually moments where I felt he might be all right. And that really threw me off, because you're ready to hate this guy, and then in the end, you kind of do. But there's a few moments where you almost think that he might love her. But how did that writing process go?
Right. Well, the character of Richie, wonderfully brought to life by the amazing Austin Stoll, is one that I thought a lot about Trump Jr. while I was writing it. You see a lot of those images of Trump Jr., kind of posing in the woods, with like in his shirt with the dead animal, and that kind of need he has to gain his father's approval. I thought about that idea that the film's a lot about gender expectations that everybody is kind of processing, and Richie's so desperate to sort of achieve that kind of alpha male concept that he's willing to sacrifice anything to it, including the person he's married to. And Austin does such a great job of walking that line where, he has moments where he kind of, sees her suffering and, tries to understand, but then he's also being, he's been trained and he's been brought up with so much privilege and so much sense of entitlement that then he gets pulled away from it. And I think Austin did an amazing job of walking that line out the whole film.
It would have been so much. He could have been sort of a cardboard villain in a sense, and he's not. Like nobody is. It's all so nuanced. I also loved a particular scene where Hunter feels safe. There's a certain space where she feels safe, and Luai is with her. Was that a conscious decision to add a character to the story that's with her? Like it would have been much more grim, maybe otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, Louis, played by the amazing Leith Knockley, who did such incredible work on the film. I wanted someone who had seen the oppression of war firsthand to be brought into the situation as a kind of jailer or someone who is brought in to sort of control her. And that there's a bond that forms between them, because in a way both Hunter and Louis are sort of employees of the family, and even though they're pitted against each other by the powers that be, they find this common bond. And the relationship between the two of them is something I'm really proud of in the movie, and a lot of people have said that they love the character of Louis, and I'm so grateful that Leith brought him to life with such power and insight.
Mm-hmm. I think people are really invested in Hunter's character. There's at least 3 questions asking about the ending without spoiling the ending.
Mm-hmm.
But people are Jack, Mariska, David. They're all very. Jack is saying, "Could you tell us more about the decision-making process behind the ending? Because there's kind of like a horror-like build-up in the film, and then it doesn't end the way you expect it to."
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I'm so pleased that people are feeling, connected to the character and the story. And as you say, I don't want to talk too much about the ending, but I'll talk about it in generalities. I really wanted this to be a movie that had kind of a mix of genres, that was sort of like the tiramisu of genres, if you will, that it has body horror elements. It has, there's psychological thriller in there. It's a domestic drama. There's some dark comedy. And the idea, was that it will be kind of an emotional roller coaster of a film that will frighten you, make you laugh, make you cry, and ultimately, hopefully at the end, give you a kind of emotional catharsis. That was really the goal. And so I wanted an ending that you could really feel the psychological movement and the intensity of the movie, because this is a film about a real person and who hopefully you really bonded with. And so I wanted an ending that would feel true to that character's journey. And so I was very pleased with how the film ended. And also my amazing, my 2 incredible producers, Molly Asher and Minette Louie, early on in the process of writing the script, we talked a lot about the final beat of the movie, and I'm so proud of how the final beat came out. And like, I don't want to say too much, but we wanted to end on a moment where, even though we've been with Hunter's story, we kind of get this idea that it could have been many other people's stories, and feel this sort of universality that meant that other women might have been dealing with a situation similar, or we followed Hunter's story, but their stories, we feel a sense of connection, and kind of universal empathy.
Yeah. There's people are also wondering like what her life is going to look like. I love that when people have seen a film and they're already thinking of the sequel or sort of.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That really makes me happy that people are wondering, that they're connected to the character and they want to know more about what's happening. That's sort of the joy of a film, right? I do that with movies that I've watched many times. I like to imagine where those characters are and what they're doing. The goal was to kind of, imply with, that even though it's not a clear statement of what happens after, that you feel a resolution in terms of Hunter's emotional and psychological journey, which I think we have there. But who knows? Maybe I can't say either way whether we'll revisit this universe again. But I'm really pleased people are curious about the continuation of the story.
Yeah. Do you have a next film on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm working on a few different projects. I'm working on a kind of feminist supernatural horror movie, and there's a couple of other film projects I'm currently working on, and some television show concepts as well. So, I'm just really excited to make another movie or another show. I think we're at a very important time right now where films have an incredible power. Storytelling is an incredible power. And I really believe movies can change the world. And I think they can, fight prejudice and increase empathy and make people feel seen and bring us together. And I hope Swallow is considered part of that movement.
Is that, because you're saying you're working on another feminist story, where does that innate need to tell those kind of stories come from for you?
Yeah, it's obviously my grandmother's, story. It really impacted me. I was raised in a feminist family, and in my 20s, for about 4.5 years, my gender expression has always been a little fluid. And in my 20s, I identified as a woman and I wore women's clothing. I had a different name. And that was a really important, wonderful, creative time in my life. And it was also a really important education too. When you're raised as a man, you don't always see how baked into the cake of society sexism is. And even just walking down the street was a real, eye opener, just seeing the way society is constantly trying to kind of control and marginalize female identified people. So that really solidified a lot of my feminist beliefs. But, making this film, I was very worried about how my male gaze might potentially affect the story. And my incredible producers, Molly Asher and Minette Louie, and I took this potential issue very seriously. And instead of just ignoring it and saying, oh, it'll be okay, which I think happens to the detriment of a lot of very seriously, and decided and had a lot of conversations and discussions about how to kind of mitigate my male gaze. And I was so fortunate, incredible female artists decided to make my grandmother's story their own. 2/3 of our cast and crew were women. All of our department heads were women. And like you said earlier, it was a real labor of love. And it was such a wonderful family of everybody who came together to tell this story.
Yeah, I think for me, that really shone through, this respect for the story and respect for Hunter and the material. That's why I was curious you could almost sense that there were more people involved and there was a personal message. I think it's so important that you are able to share your story through stories like these and make these kinds of subjects available to people, for people to understand. I also feel genre can help in that sense, because it's also something that a lot of people understand. It's something that maybe taps into some subconscious, and it's always, for me at least, been the way to talk about maybe more serious issues through form and through mixing up the rules. We should all do more, right?
I really agree with that. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a very exciting time for genre right now. There's so many incredible people working in genre that, are allowed, we're at a time where fear is something that's a part of daily life. And in some ways, horror movies and genre films can be really cathartic. Going to the horror film and seeing your fears manifested on the screen in a safe, context, I think it does allow one to gain a kind of control. So when you leave the theater, you feel, once those fears have been articulated, they feel more manageable in a way. And there's so many great people working, incredible directors working in that space, like Jordan Peele with Get Out, and the film Babadook. I thought was really amazing. Hereditary. I mean, there's so many great, interesting films that are bringing horror into new and powerful territories. Yeah.
It's like you say, a time of fear, and especially now a very strange time. But when it comes to that, also a very exciting time, I think, in film. And I'm very happy to be able to find and watch films like these where you really can't pin down what it belongs to. It just makes you feel and think and relate to somebody maybe you wouldn't have thought you could relate to. And that's the respect that I mentioned. Like, I think she does. Hunter doesn't. Not everything does make sense to be to everybody, but it does within the way she's treated as a character in the film. So thank you so much for making this movie and for joining us. We're all through. You're welcome. We can't wait to see what's next.
Can't wait, to come back with another film and talk with you about it. I so appreciate this conversation. It was really fascinating. And thank you to everybody who came out and watched the movie and participated in this. It's on Cineville right now. And thank you to CineArt, our distributor, for bringing it to Holland, and Cineville for bringing it to Holland. So I hope everybody, if you like the film, tell your friends about it. Word of mouth is very important for independent movies. And I hope everybody's... Thank you for talking to me. I really appreciate it. And
let's hope maybe we can screen your next film at Imagine when everything's back to normal.
Yes,
that'd be great.
Yes, I would love that. I that would be incredible.
Okay, thanks so much. Have a great day. I guess it's earlier.
Yeah, it's the middle of the day. Thank you so much.
Right.
Have a good night, everyone. Bye. Really appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. All right. Everybody, iedereen. Dat was Carlo Mirabella-Davis. Heel erg bedankt voor jullie vragen en interesse. Volgens mij kan je eindeloos over deze film doorpraten, maar we hebben geen tijd meer. Dit was de 5e Vitamine Cineville Viewing Party. We hebben er volgende week nog eentje. Want daarna gaan we natuurlijk allemaal weer in het plusje zitten. Vanaf 1 juni kan je namelijk weer naar de bioscoop. 30 mensen per zaal betekent dat je met een Cineville pas wel verplicht bent om te reserveren. Dus doe dat vooral. De theaters zijn heel hard bezig met weer allemaal mooie programma's voor jullie maken. En er komen heel veel mooie nieuwe releases uit. Voor nu hebben we dus nog 1 viewing party volgende week op 29 mei. Dat is Crystal Moselle komt langs, de regisseur van Skate Kitchen. Een film waar we ook al een tijdje op zaten te wachten. Een feministische skatefilm. Om maar eventjes binnen het thema te blijven. Dus kom vooral even kijken. En we doen in juni ook nog, op 18 juni doen we een Cineville quiz. Ook nog vanaf de bank, omdat je in juni natuurlijk nog niet met grote groepen vrienden helaas naar buiten mag. Maar goed, heel erg bedankt voor het kijken. Ik zie jullie volgende week, of ik ben daar niet, maar mijn collega. Maar we zien jullie volgende week. En nogmaals heel erg bedankt. En vertel inderdaad, zoals Carlo zei, aan je vrienden dat Swallow nu te zien is.